Hello everybody, I'm Sarah and I'm a recorder player. Welcome back to Team Recorder. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and don't forget to click on the bell icon to make sure you get a notification when I post a video. Thank you. So I hear from a lot of my viewers that don't know how to read music but would like to start. You don't have to be able to read music in order to make music, but it is a good skill to have. So I'm going to attempt to tell you how to read music. If I were to fully explain everything and every term I use, this video would be a zillion years long. I'll do the best I can, but if I use a term like octave or trill that you don't understand, check the links in the description for places that you can read further. Okay, are we ready? So music notation is there to basically tell us about four main parameters. We have high and low, long and short, fast and slow, and loud and soft. Other things like tone colour or texture come into play, but I'd say these four are the main ones. Music is notated on these 5 lines known as the stave, and your musical note starts as a blob on this stave. The technical term for such a blob is a note head. The higher it is on the stave, the higher it sounds. The lower it is, the lower it sounds. And those notes can be on the lines or between the lines. And its position on the stave tells you which note it is. So let's take a look. We've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, just like the alphabet. And this repeats and extends on either side. And if notes go higher or lower than the stave, of course that's possible, then they get extra lines known as ledger lines. However, the position of all these notes on the stave can change depending on what clef you're reading in. What does this mean? Next section. The symbol at the start of a line is called a clef, and it gives you information on what the names of the notes are going to be. The two most common ones are the treble clef. This is one that people get as a tattoo the most often. It's also called the G clef, and that squiggle in the middle is where the G is. Handy! The other one we see commonly is the bass clef or F clef. Where those two little dots are is where the F is. They've thought about this, evidently. Treble clef is used for higher instruments, bass clef for lower. There are other clefs, but not today. Okay, how long should a note last? A whole note is 4 beats long. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looks like this. A half note is 2 beats long, so half of a whole note, right? And it's got what's called a stem. A quarter note is 1 beat long and it's filled in. An 8th note is half as long again and it gets this little flag. A 16th note is half as long again, seeing where I'm going with this, and it gets 2 flags. A 32nd note has 3 flags. A 64th note has 4 flags. Oh yeah, and a double whole note is this oblong here and it lasts for 8 beats. It's all pretty logical, right? Except for in Britain, where they have frankly ridiculous names for each of these. We have the breve, semi-breve, minim, crotchet, quaver, semi-quaver, demi-semi-quaver and hemi-demi-semi-quaver. Okay, adding a dot immediately after a note makes it half as long again. A half note is 2 beats, adding a dot makes it 3 beats. A whole note is 4 beats, adding a dot makes it 6 beats. A quarter note is 1 beat, adding a dot makes it 1.5 beats. Music is basically maths. Adding 2 dots is known as double dotting, and it increases the length by 3/4. It's very exciting. With these basic building blocks, the pitch of the note and the length of the note, you can already do a lot. So let's try a couple of examples. If we just had all of the notes in a piece written out in a row, it would be a bit difficult to follow. So we split our music up into smaller groups known as bars. This makes it easier to read and importantly gives a feeling for the rhythm. They are divided by bar lines. Okay, how many beats fit into each bar? Well, you can choose. At the start of the piece, you have what is known as your time signature, these two numbers. The top number tells you the number of beats in the bar. This can be 4, 3, 2, 6, 7. And the bottom number tells you what the beat is. 4 means a quarter note, 8 means an eighth note, 16 means a 16th note. So 4, 4 is 4 quarter notes per bar. 2, 2 is 2 half notes per bar. It's quite logical. 27, 16 is 27 16th notes per bar, but I wouldn't recommend playing that. And at the very end of your music, you get a double bar line to tell you it's over. What if you want a note that's longer than 1 bar? It won't fit. Then you use this symbol called a tie. You literally tie 2 notes together and the note becomes the total value. So a whole note tied to a half note is 6 beats in total, or this is 17.5. Gonna get a little bit complex here. These 3 notes with a bracket and a 3 above is called a triplet. It means that those 3 notes are squeezed into the time it would take to play 2. So it sounds like this. At this point, I'll say that you can actually, in theory, put any number in that bracket and create really complex rhythms in that way, but that's something for another video. Notes are for when you want to make a sound, but what if you want to have no sound? Well, then you use a rest. And they have the same names, whole note rest, quarter note rest, half note rest, but they look different. Whole note rest, half note rest, they look like this, study the difference. The quarter note rest, 1 beat, is this little lightning strike. 8th, 16th, 32nd note rest. As you can see, each one gets an extra line. An example. If you have lots of bars of rest after one another, you might just notate 1 bar but put a number above it, and that's the number total. Wait 1 second, so I've told you about the notes A, B, C, D, E, but what about sharps and flats? Adding a sharp sign, not a hashtag, before the note makes it a semitone higher. A semitone is also called a half step. Adding a flat makes it a semitone lower. And if you see this within the music, it's called an accidental, and it lasts until the next bar line. Right, if you see sharps or flats at the beginning of the line, this applies to all corresponding notes in the piece. So see that flat, it's on the line for the B. That means all the B's in the piece are actually B flat. These sharps or flats at the beginning are called the key signature. You'll only see sharps or flats there, and they always go in a specific order. Flats, B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and sharps, F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Want to take a flat or a sharp away from a note? Then we use a natural sign. I'm ready for something crazy. This is a double sharp and it makes it a whole tone higher. And this is a double flat and it makes it a whole tone lower. So you can change how the note is performed. A dot above or below the note is called a staccato, and it means it's played very, very, very short, like this. This is called an accent, so it should be given a bit of extra power. A straight line above a note is a portato, and that just means it should be held for its full value. You can also join together different notes with this line called a slur. You then play those notes legato, so you articulate the first one but not the rest. Dynamics is how loud or soft you play based on the following symbols. P is soft, F is loud. You can moderate these. PP is very soft, FF is very loud, FFFFF is very, very, very loud. MP and MF make it a bit soft, a bit loud. So this spectrum of dynamics actually comes from Italian terms, as you can see here. Oh, a fun one, if you see SFZ, that means sforzando, and it means suddenly loud. If you want to get gradually louder or softer, you can use hairpins. So you see this one is gradually opening up, it's getting louder, and this one is closing down, it's getting softer. Or you can write down the Italian terms. Crescendo means louder, diminuendo means softer. Sorry about my accent. Tempo! Tempo is how slow or fast you play, and it can be notated in a few different ways. A metronome mark tells you how many beats per minute, so 60 means 1 beat every second. So 60 seconds in a minute. You should also show the note value that you're referring to. So this means 60 quarter notes per minute, and this means 296 whole notes per minute. There are, of course, a whole bunch of Italian terms for tempo. I'm going to put some common ones here. Do you want to gradually speed up? Then you use accelerando. And if you want to speed down. If you want to slow down, you use rallentando or ritardando. I never fully understood what the difference is. I don't think you have to worry about it. While we're on the subject of these text terms, there are a whole bunch of other ones that you commonly see in music. Again, I'm going to write some here down. Grammar. There are a whole bunch of other symbols. I'm just going to go into some common ones here. This is a fermata, sometimes called a pause, and it just means that you hold that note a bit longer and you feel how long. So like... If you want to be fancy, you can make the fermata look like this and then it's really long, or like this and it's not quite as long. Composers love to specify these things. A little 8VE ... above your music means that that passage is played an octave higher. And an 8VB means an octave lower. B is like bass, I think. Oh, this is a good one. Do you have a bar that keeps repeating? Instead of writing it out a million times, you can write it once and then use this symbol with a number above, and that means repeat that number of times. TR means a trill. And this curly symbol is called a turn. And of course there are a lot more specialised symbols for particular types of music. Baroque ornamentation, contemporary techniques, also string instruments, percussion instruments. I can't go into everything here, but I'll put some links in the description for, in particular, my videos on Baroque ornamentation and contemporary music. Check them out. A double bar line with 2 little dots is called a repeat. It means you go back and play it all again. If you want to repeat a specific section, not the whole piece, you use 2 sets of double dots and everything in between is repeated. This is a first time bar and a second time bar. You use this in a repeat. The first time you play the first time bar, when you come back you skip that and go straight to the second time bar. Does that make sense? Sometimes at the end of the piece you see DC al fine. That means go back to the beginning and play again until you reach fine, fine. DC means da capo, the beginning, the head, and fine, fine, that means end. It's a way of repeating the first part of the piece again. Again, you do see more complicated structures than this, but I'm going to leave this one here. And the last part. With all of this, I've assumed that you're playing a melody instrument with 1 line of music. What if you're playing with other people? Then you will see the different voices stacked on top of one another, and they'll be joined at the beginning by a bracket. So here we see 2 lines together, that's a duet, 3 lines together, a trio. You might see 25 lines for an orchestra. I feel like what have I forgotten? I think this is enough to be going on with. So that was my summary of what all of these musical symbols mean. Take it slowly. You won't have it all in your brain after watching this video once, but as I said, this is intended as a resource for you to look things up as and when you need them. I hope you found it helpful. As always, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my little face down here in the corner. Down here is a link to the Team Recorder Patreon. Please support the channel. In the description is a link to our web shop where you can order my album and cool Team Recorder merch. Up here is a link to my video, Your First Recorder Lesson, where you also learn a very simple piece. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye!